This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Words cannot describe how glad I am that the teaser tides turned this week. Was it an ugly game on Monday night? Yes, it was. Did the Eagles' leg get home for us, though? Sure did. But that's not the only reason that I welcome you into this Tuesday edition of Money Moves with positive vibes. The real reason I'm so happy is it is the man to my left's birthday today. Happy birthday, JVT. How you feeling? Look at that. Look at that.
This is exactly why I walked in today, and everybody in the back, which I appreciate, wished me happy birthday. And now this is why I don't like to tell people that it is my birthday. But thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Looks great.
35 years old.
I hope you do get a real cake at home with all that. 35 candles now. That's a lot to blow out.
Yeah. I mean, let's slow down. What do you got, 33? What'd you
Whoa.
Yeah, exactly.
Basically an infant.
Come on.
And you celebrated a little early last night with Tim Murray, our boy?
Tim Murray was out. John Murray, director of, I always go director, this is his old title, VP of Racing Sports out there at the Westgate Superbook. We're out at Parkway Tavern. I had to because I had to watch the Monday night game because I have YouTube TV and I can't watch it at home. So, if I had to have some beers along with it, then so be it. I'm willing to make that sacrifice. And sacrifice it was.
You deserve it.
Because I could pretty much go to sleep right now if I wanted to.
I know we give each other grief nonstop on this show, but you are one of the hardest working human beings that I know. And so you deserve to take a load off every once in a while. I do have a present for you.
Okay. What?
I think you'll like it.
Okay, let's see. I always love these. All right. Colts 11-1 to win the NFL championship.
Thank
you very much.
You're welcome. Happy birthday. Go Colts.
Appreciate it. All right.
Go Colts.
Let's talk about this anymore now. Thank you.
We do have a lot to get to over the course of the next 2 hours. Thanks for hanging with us. Let's set the table for everything else that is to come with the Rundown.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the Rundown.
We are going to have a lot of fun today. Plenty of things to get into, including a mid-season NFL draft check-in. If you remember, earlier this season, we had a VSiN host snake draft for some futures plays. So we're going to dive into the winners and losers with our own Adam Burke in about a half an hour, who did a breakdown of every single pick from the draft.
Yeah, so first off, I thought this was the actual NFL draft, and then I realized what we were going to do here. Adam's rankings are incorrect. I'm going to win, so very much in a disagreement with the way Adam Burke decided to haphazardly throw together some shoddy rankings.
Wow.
I would say that this is exactly what's wrong with journalism today.
Shots fired. Well, I look forward to you going eye to eye, face to face to give that critique.
Glasses to glasses.
Speaking of the aforementioned Colts, by the way, the Jonathan Taylor pick I had for most rushing yards is what has carried my entire draft to this point. So stay healthy, buddy.
I tried to get BTJ, Brian Thomas Jr., with league leader in receiving yards. He's not going to get there 13-1, but got a couple. So we'll see. We still got plenty of time.
We are also going to dive into a little college football today, looking specifically at some of these conference title races, because it's getting really interesting, not only for who's going to win these leagues, but who's even just going to make the title game to begin with. And with the second set of college football playoff rankings coming out tonight, some odds and numbers tied to where teams might be able to make it or miss the playoffs.
Yeah, the ACC, obviously, we've touched on it a little bit. That's pretty interesting. The group, or the non-power. I go non-power because I can't remember how many groups there are now in the group of whatever.
The G6.
The G6, thank you. Because I keep wanting to go G5. Either way, the non-power conference seems like JMU is in the driver's seat to get it done. But the way that these teams have been playing, who the hell knows every single week if some of these non-power teams are going to continue to win. But, yes, very interesting to see how this is going to break down in the fringes of the playoff race.
Another good one is the non-autonomous 6. That's another.
Ooh, that's a little bit better.
We'll also hit on the NBA card today. Yes. Obviously, the breaking news this morning in the NBA as well. General manager of the Dallas Mavericks, Nico Harrison, let go. We'll have plenty of NFL to discuss in terms of news, practice reports, information that's coming out. But where we start in the NFL is a reaction to Monday Night Football, as the Eagles do win outright last night as a 1.5-point dog. Pick them a lot of spots as well. They beat the Packers 10-7 in what was such an ugly game, JVT. We're scoreless at halftime. It's a 3-0 game through 3 quarters. No touchdowns and 1 field goal through 14 combined possessions in that game last night. It was a tough watch for a while.
Yes, it was. The bookends of the week. So we get that disgusting game on Thursday Night Football between the Raiders and the Broncos, and then we end the week with this almost exact same thing between the Eagles and the Packers. Ugly, and frankly, I think you have to start here. Ugly for Green Bay. As this team consistently now has shown, it is not the group that we thought they could be. At one point, favored to win the NFC, a team that looked like they were going to be unstoppable on defense and an offense that was explosive. I mean, hell, we talked about going into it, they were a top 3 unit across the board in many different offensive metrics. And yet, this is what we've gotten from this team recently. We've seen a decline in their defensive play, although it didn't show up yesterday. We've seen their offense just helter-skelter all over the place, unable to get into the end zone against the Carolina Panthers, and now here again against the Eagles. Yeah. How in the world are you going to trust this team at all? And frankly, you know, you look at this, and Mitch and I talked about this on Pod of the Futures. It's going to be wherever you get your podcast coming out here pretty shortly. They could miss the playoffs. The Green Bay Packers. Think about that. At one point, favored to win the conference, they still have plenty of opportunity to slip out of the playoff picture.
And what sticks out to me because of the offensive issues is the fact that Green Bay is now 1-3 this season when holding opponents under 17 points. Yep. The rest of the league in that time is 62-5. And listen, like the Packers defense, they top 7 scoring defense, top 5 in total yards allowed. And I know offensively they're missing some pieces. Tucker Kraft, key cog, he's done for the year. They're still without Jaden Reed. They didn't have Matthew Golden. But how many times were guys right there for Jordan Love to make the play? Yep. And he didn't make it. And I look at that first possession even, the 2nd and 9 plus territory, takes a terrible sack when he's got the check down to the tight end readily available for him. And instead you have a can't have it play in that moment where you go from a position to get at least a field goal and points on the board to having to punt it away, or the very end of the half. And I actually thought what was Jordan Love's best drive of the game to that point. And then you take a sack fumble that is just brutal and disgusting. And the numbers for Jordan Love yesterday were tough. 20 of 36 for 176, 4.9 yards per attempt, the lowest in a single game for his career. JVT, he didn't have a single completion under pressure. 0 for 6 with 3 sacks, 2 scrambles, and a lost fumble in that instance. Yep.
I mean, like this season overall for Love has not been terrible by any stretch, but I feel like when you watch, you're just left with wanting more. And, you know, I always bring this up because you bring up the pressure numbers. Humans, and this is always a fair rebuttal, humans always says, well, what quarterback doesn't struggle under pressure? But it does matter how you handle it. You know, we'll invoke Daniel Jones for a quick moment. He had handled pressure so well going into that Steelers game that it was thought that his offensive line was actually very good, when in fact he was actually among the most pressured quarterbacks in the NFL before that. So he had handled those pressure dropbacks well. To your point on the season, under pressure, he's completing, Jordan Love, just 39% of his passes. He's thrown 2 interceptions, committed 7 of his 10 turnover-worthy plays. Like, this has not been a guy who can handle it. And, by the way, he's been under pressure because his offensive line's been beat up on over 36% of his dropbacks. So that's part of the struggle, too, is when you can get to him, he does not play well. That has been a thread throughout his career. I think even go back to college. And then the turnover-worthy plays ratchet up, too. And that's been a problem for him. So I'm like, it's not that he's bad. And I don't want to – I think when you say this, it seems like he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. But to an extent, he is also holding them back because in those situations, I think you have to be better.
And I think it's the inconsistency because we have seen flashes. We do know what he's capable of when he's at his best. And I think that's what makes it more frustrating, especially given the last 2 games in particular, the way he performed against the Panthers as well, tied into that. Back-to-back starts now without a touchdown pass. He has 5 games this season with 1 touchdown or less, 4 games with fewer than 200 yards passing. The turnovers and the losses have been costly. There's a lot of elements to this thing. And now adding insult to literal injury, starting center Elkin Jenkins fractured his lower leg and was carted to the locker room just before the half as well. So that's another thing you have to deal with moving forward if you're Green Bay.
Would you look at them to miss the playoffs?
Plus 270 is the price.
Their schedule is they get the Giants this week. We'll see if Jackson Dart plays. But they still have 2 games against the Vikings, 2 games against the Bears. They also have the Broncos and the Ravens and Lions on the schedule. Not in that order, obviously. That is a schedule where, again, this team, I mean, we're watching them scuffle with losing to the Browns, losing to the Panthers, not being able to score consistently. This is a team that realistically, because right now they are the 7th seed in the NFC. Your team gets healthy, they could push them out of the picture. They start taking these losses left and right on a bear of a schedule moving forward. Like, playoffs aren't guaranteed for this team in any way, shape, or form.
Literal bear with 2 head-to-heads against Chicago as well, who is ahead of them in the division now.
It's a bear sandwich because in between they get the Broncos. So, it's a schedule that's pretty brutal. And, again, when your offense has been the catalyst in your struggles, where it's been just, you know, it's like I've never learned how to drive stick. Do you know how to drive stick?
I do.
But when you're learning, right, you're just constantly jerking. You don't know what you're doing. That is their offense. It is a teenager learning how to drive stick.
And listen, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for the Eagles yesterday, who do get the win. Again, 10-7. Their 10 points scored were their fewest in a win since 2007. But what's really been making the rounds is this end-of-game situation where Philly was facing 4th and 6 at Green Bay's 35. They have that lead, 33 seconds to go. Green Bay, no timeouts. Nick Sirianni and the Eagles decide to go for it instead of punt away. Here's Sirianni's response to why.
We're up 3. And I would have liked to be in a little closer to kick a field goal. But the closer we would have got, the more, again, you play every situation a little bit differently, but I think it was into the wind on that one. I knew the kick would have to be a little bit lower trajectory of a kick on that particular one. I got a lot of faith in our offense. It didn't work out on this one. We just didn't get it. But the decision, I stand put on that decision. Especially being up 3, because you go up 6, they're still going to need a touchdown, being a Hail Mary, everything like that. So we would have ended the game if we would have got that, and then got a lot of faith in our guys to be able to do that. But the reason I didn't kick the field goal, again, being up 3, and also just this trajectory into the wind there.
Man, he just kept going.
Yeah. I mean, I always say, I think the most useless lead in football is a 6-point lead.
Yeah. Agreed.
Like it's so.
Yeah,
I don't disagree with the logic.
It was. I mean, I thought it was weird in the moment, but I do understand where you and him are coming from. Just a little odd. I do have one other thing I want to say about this game when we come back. We're also going to hit on some college football next as we enter Week 12. The margin for error getting slimmer and slimmer. Going to discuss who might make some of these conference title games.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you had a prop bet
$150,000?
on $150,000, at least, give the song some vibes to it. But if you had a no touchdown prop bet yesterday, yeah. I was rooting for you hard. I was hoping by the time we got to the fourth quarter last night that it was just going to last and get there. According to our wonderful producer, Justin, that closed at 110-1. Yeah. He almost fired on it and didn't. But so it ended up being good, saved you money, but I would have loved it. Electric. If you're already having to watch a dud of a game, let's at least cash in a fun way.
It's funny. I had missed the first half and because I was busy and I was going to go out and watch the game, because again, I can at home. But when I was driving, I was checking the app. I was like, oh, there's no way. Like, my app must be broken. Like, really? Like, scoreless, no shot.
Oh, it's just not loading.
Yeah, and then I walk into the bar. I'm like, oh, it's scoreless. What the hell is this? So, yes, I feel for you. That sucks. How low did the in-game total get?
Oh, I don't know. I should have looked at that. But I will say, so Devonta Smith, first touchdown ticket did end up coming through. Josh Jacobs, anytime scorer, also gets home. So there you go. I know a lot of people like those running back props in the parlays and everything. And I want to give some kudos as well to Warren Sharp, whose best bet of the week when it came to the props was Josh Jacobs over receptions. Not a sweat at all.
Yep.
So well played from that standpoint. Coming up next for Green Bay, they're a 7.5-point favorite at the Giants, total 44.5 there. That number has come down from yesterday when we were doing Do You Approve This Move, was bet up to 8.5. That's come down again. And then maybe you get a little interim coach bump too factor for the Giants for people that were playing that. And then the Eagles laying 1.5 against the Giants, total 47.5. That'll be a fun one next week as well.
Hopefully it'll be a fun one.
On paper.
Yes,
we also thought last night could have been a fun one. Not so much. Tonight, we're going to get the second set of college football playoff selection committee rankings with the reveal on ESPN. It's always a fun exercise to see kind of where the committee moves teams, their rationale for why. But what I am more interested in right now is some of these conference championship races, most notably, as you brought up last segment, the ACC. Because, I mean, when you look at some of these leagues, not only are the auto bids up for grabs, but who's even going to play in the game?
Right.
With the ACC, I have no idea.
Any one of 6 teams could be just in the conference championship game, and then obviously playing in the college football playoff.
I mean, everything that played out this weekend was bonkers.
Yep.
Louisville, the game that I was at, was at home, number 15 ranked team in the country. They get upset as a 20.5-point favorite by Cal. Virginia at least finally loses because I feel like they were due. I do feel bad for the Chandler Morris getting knocked out of it all. But he, by the way, according to their head coach, is poised to get on the practice field today, potentially. Yesterday, he was out there watching, couldn't do anything moving around. Hopefully today they can. But they were a team that was as fake as a fake conference leader could be. So I'm glad at least they get knocked down a peg.
Yeah.
Georgia Tech, to me, is the best team in the ACC. But does that mean anything? And will they actually go the distance? How do you see it?
Well, I'm hoping because I have this Georgia Tech plus 190 to make the college football playoff.
Yeah,
so.
I like your ticket better than mine. Maybe equally.
What do you have?
I have them to make the ACC title game, minus 130.
Yeah, I mean,
but I had to lay a price for that.
Well, we both want them to be in the title game.
Yes.
Like that is for sure. So we are united in that front. I mean, I don't know. I can't really tell what team is what on a week-to-week basis. I guess with Virginia still in the running, considering they're tied for first, and today it still would be Georgia Tech, Virginia, if it ended today, right? So with Pat Narduzzi and the Pitt Panthers being on the outside looking in from those tiebreakers, I would still kind of hold out that it would be Virginia potentially. You know, their offense statistically has been very good all season long outside of playing Wake. And by the way, Wake, you know, if you look at their statistical profile on defense, they're actually not a bad group. They've been playing pretty well on defense. So I think that I would have some faith that Virginia, at the very least, can still maintain course and get to the ACC championship game.
They have 2 games remaining at Duke coming up next week, and then Virginia Tech to close out the season. Duke, another kind of wild one, the situation that they're in right now, and you see those odds to win the ACC. Georgia Tech is your favorite, plus 160. The aforementioned Blue Devils, plus 320. SMU, plus 550. Pitt, plus 650. And Virginia, plus 750. But Duke, fresh off their loss to UConn, it's their 4th loss of the season. Yep. But they're 4-1 in the conference. Yep. Their lone ACC loss being to Georgia Tech, who I just said I think is the best team in the league. The others to Illinois, Tulane, and UConn on Saturday. If UConn was in the ACC, they'd be in the clubhouse to win the conference with what they've done this year. Goodness.
Well, and Duke has, you know, like you said, Duke's only played 5 games. These other teams have all played 6 conference games, so that'll obviously catch up by the end of the year. But that's also why Duke is where it's at. I think they would be in there tiebreaker-wise. And it's going to settle itself out anyway, because as you mentioned, on the schedule with Duke and what they have.
I am glad as well that you brought up the Pitt Panthers. They have a date with Notre Dame coming up this weekend.
So I'm glad you guys played this, because I sent a text out last night, and I was just like, you got to pull the Pat Narduzzi clip.
I'm not going to remember in the morning.
I'm not going to remember in the morning, which I didn't, and I'm glad you guys did. And I actually don't know what this clip says at all.
You don't?
I was just told by Tim Murray, you got to play the Pat Narduzzi thing on your show tomorrow. And I was like, you got it. I just texted you guys.
I can't wait for you to be surprised by this then.
Okay.
This is what Narduzzi had to say at his weekly press conference.
This is how we do the show.
When asked about whether or not Saturday's meeting with Notre Dame is a must-win.
Do you feel like this is a must-win for this team when it comes to something?
Absolutely not. You know, it is not an ACC game. I'm glad you brought that up. It's not an ACC game. You know, I gladly get beat 103 or 110 to 10 in that game. They can put 100 up on us as long as we win the next 2 after that. But again, our focus is on Notre Dame and getting as many wins as we can.
What?
So what do you say? Notre Dame team total over? Like, that doesn't give me a ton of confidence in Pitt after that.
How does that make any sense?
Exactly.
What do you mean you can't in one breath say, this isn't a must-win game. I don't care. We could lose by 100 points. And then 2 seconds later say, we're just focused on Notre Dame.
It's crazy.
There's no way that makes any sense.
I read the quote initially of they can beat us 110 to 10 and whatever. And I went back to actually listen to it. And I thought, listening to this actually makes it sound worse than when I just read the one sentence about it. So, with that said,
Justin, at Notre Dame minus 11.5 to the dock. Let's do this.
That's what I was going to say. So 11.5 point spread, Pitt a home dog, but not feeling a lot of confidence in taking the double digits after that comment. Total 55.5.
What do you think when you hear your coach say that? Like, what's your... Like, in theory, he is correct. Like, you only need to worry about the ACC games because you're trying to get to the playoff. You're tied for first in the ACC, but how do you just vocally put that out there?
And I'm glad you asked that.
That's so weird.
Notre Dame's team total is 33.5 as well, and we know that offense can put up numbers.
Yeah.
Any interest in that, or you just want you're good laying?
Let's go. Come on, let's lay it. What do we do? We have to. That's it. That's all that's left.
So obviously the ACC was top of mind.
We didn't mention this team, I don't think, at all. Any faith in SMU? Home versus Louisville at Cal?
Rhett Lashley's a good coach.
Yeah. Their schedule is, because like we talked about, Georgia Tech and, not Georgia Tech, excuse me, Virginia and Duke are going to knock each other out because they're going to play each other. Pitt and Georgia Tech will knock each other out because they still play each other. So the one left on the schedule that's just sitting back and going, all right, cool. Like, we have Louisville. That's kind of tough, but whatever. We just watched Louisville lose at home to Cal. And then you have to go to Cal, which might be a trap considering how well the Bears play. But SMU on the fringes here. And the other dynamic, which I think you brought up yesterday, but just to point out, Georgia Tech plus 160 to win the ACC, plus 190 to make the playoff. Let's see, Pitt plus 650 to win the ACC, 8-1 to make the playoff. Those seem pretty synonymous. Yeah. If you think Pitt's going to win the ACC, I mean, take 8-1 to make the playoff because that seems like that is going to be something that's going to happen. They're going to make it.
And we've talked about this. Look for those disparities, whether it be the ACC, the Big 12, whatever it is. You're going to find a better number in some cases for them to make the playoff instead of the conference championship number. So make sure you look at those. I'm glad you brought up Cal again because huge game for me in the futures market next week, Cal at Stanford. Because if you remember earlier this season, we gave out the Cal in-season win total over 6.5. That win against Louisville was clutch. They have Stanford and SMU to close out the season. Gotta have it at Stanford.
Is there a program that's getting more coverage on this network than Cal because of us? You've gotten them like 6 times. I have this weird knowledge of Cal football now because you keep having these games.
And you love Jacob DeJesus, former UNLV.
DeJesus, former UNLV punt returner, wide receiver. Yeah, I mean, and they're a fly in the ointment. Like they're impacting this ACC race.
Yes,
so
crazy.
It's a good year for you to have Cal 7 times.
In only 4. But potentially 5, depending on that SMU game at the end of the year. We'll see how that shakes out.
I told you.
You think that's the one?
You think you're going to get Cal SMU?
That would tie a record for me. I went back and looked. That season I had a bunch of BYU. I only did 5.
Did you put your graphic together?
Oh, yes. That's for tomorrow.
All right.
That's for tomorrow.
It's for tomorrow?
It's for tomorrow.
An amazing statistic that you need to be on the show for tomorrow to hear.
Yes. West Coast bias coming at you tomorrow, live at noon Pacific. 3 Eastern. Before the line moves, remember everybody as well, Sharp Play is already there. They don't just follow the market, they help move it. You're not going to outsmart billion-dollar sports books or full-time sharps on your own. But how about this? With the Sharp Plays, you don't have to. Powered by advanced AI, plugged into trusted insider sources, and active across the NFL, NBA, MLB, and college hoops. The Sharp Plays delivers the serious edge bettors use every day. Free betting reports, real-time alerts, market-moving insights, all sent straight to your inbox or X feed. Since 2011, Sharp Plays has been documenting those delivered results. Public logs, transparent receipts, everything at sharpplays.com. Stay ahead of the line. And we're going to stay ahead of the action right here on VSiN as well. We'll revisit college football a little bit later on in the program. But first, when we come back, VSiN's own Adam Burke is going to step onto the desk. He did a deep dive to give out mid-season grades for all of our hosts' NFL futures draft picks. Who's on top? Who needs a little help the back half of the year?
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Buonantony and Jonathan Von Tobel with you live from downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino, as we roll along with this Tuesday edition of Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network. And our next guest has a real labor of love he put together this week. Adam Burke, VSiN.com Managing Editor, joins us here live in studio. And you had some tough homework this week. As if you don't already do enough putting together all of our betting guides for every major event and season that starts, you also were tasked with putting together, evaluating, and grading our VSiN host NFL futures drafts from the preseason. How'd it go?
Well, first of all, let's not call this homework because I assigned it to myself, and then I realized what I got myself into.
This is what you wanted?
This is like over 100 bets, right?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was pretty certain that Steve Cohen was like, Adam, I need you to do something for me.
It was brought up last week on one of the meetings of like, oh, yeah, it's kind of mid-season in the NFL now, so we might want to take a look at this. And, I don't know how to keep my arm down. I just raise my hand all the time.
Sure.
So that's what I did here, and I think it's 5,400 words of taking cheap shots at our VSiN hosts.
Hell yeah. Except for Stormy. God, you guys are always so nice to her. There's no reason to be.
You've met her. It's impossible to be mean to her.
No, it's not.
I'll say JVT finds a way.
I was going to say, that's not true. I do it every day.
The mustache shows the evil that you have within.
That's very true. That's why it's growing so thick.
For our radio audience, you do need to make sure you check in with the VSiN Watch app a little bit later on to see we're getting to the point of the mustache growth for JVT that you can see it on camera. And I think the contrast with the white shirt is giving it a nice pop today as well.
Yeah, my lip is not dirty for those who are watching at home. That is hair.
But you can't grow a beard, just a mustache.
I mean, technically I can grow a beard, but it's like a neck beard.
Oh, yeah. No one wants to be that beard guy.
That's why the no shave is just the mustache.
Okay.
It would just look awful if that was the case.
So, Adam, as you did go through this, you graded Matt Youmans as the top contender so far where we are at the midseason. Patrick Maher in second. I came in third. I was saying earlier the Jonathan Taylor future on him to have the most rushing yards this season, definitely carrying the team there for me. Dave Ross in fourth, and then JVT in fifth. How did you get to Youmans at the top? How well is he looking right now?
Well, I mean, some of it was a little bit arbitrary, but I will say that, when you look at him, he's got a couple of division futures that look like they're in really good shape here. I mean, the Patriots to win the AFC East at 5-1, really nice grab there. And then also the Broncos to win the AFC West. They still have some issues offensively, but on the defensive side, they look really, really strong and, lead the NFL in yards per play allowed. So, really it was a lot of that. His win totals are in very good shape here as well. And the thing that makes this really interesting is you mentioned the Jonathan Taylor one that you're sitting on. Patrick Maher is sitting on one as well. Youmans, his two kind of long shot stat leader prop things were actually both on Joe Burrow. And, as we know, those are not going to come through. So it was interesting to kind of see that, the way that injuries have definitely shaped and impacted this whole thing. But again, I mean, you're sitting on a nice double-digit shot there with Taylor, and so it gives you a little bit more margin for error when you've got some plays like that.
I get credit for the best gamesmanship move of the NFL of our futures draft, which was drafting Joe Burrow under his passing yards because I was like, why not? A bunch of you got some Burrow and some Higgins and some Jamar Chase stuff. Let's go.
Well,
and it worked.
Well, and look, I mean, I think there are some learnings to be taken from this exercise too. I mean, obviously, we still have 8 weeks left of the season. There's still some time for things to kind of move around, shift around, stuff like that. But, a lot of the player prop stuff was on the over, because obviously you come into the season, you're hearing hype about people, you're getting excited about people. Certainly there was some correlation between win totals and stat leaders and, over player props, stuff like that. But a lot of times these things don't leave a whole lot of margin for error. Right. I mean, these guys have to play, 16, 17 games in order to get some of these benchmarks or certainly to lead in some of these stat categories. And while you can't predict injuries, maybe you can kind of, account for them a little bit more, limit your exposure by looking at some of these things under because, for you, for example, with Burrow under, you can't cash the ticket yet. You can't spend that money yet. But it's a winner.
Well, what about, you pointed out when you talked about my picks too, Brock Bowers, right?
Right, yeah.
Like Brock Bowers, I had him over 1,500 receiving yards. I really like that a lot. But as you point out, he's on track to miss it by 50-ish yards, something like that, because he got injured.
Yeah, because he missed 3 games.
Yep.
And look, I mean, that's something too, where, again, you kind of extrapolate this thing out to the 17-game sample. You kind of think about what, a player may average, something like that. For example, with a team like the Raiders, you astutely in your mind probably thought, well, this team stinks. They're going to lose a lot of games. They're going to be throwing a lot. Bowers is going to have a lot of opportunities, and he may still get there, losing 3 games because they're going to trail so much and have opportunities to throw the football if Geno Smith throws it to his own guys and not the other team.
Correct.
Meanwhile, I have one of those issues as well with Garrett Wilson. I was believing that even with it being Justin Fields throwing him the football, he would still get to that yardage because he's gone over 1,000 for every season so far he's been in the NFL. The prop was at 925.5. But now, in addition to the passing issues, he's been hurt, so that's hurting my case as well. One prop I do actually like a little bit, though, Jared Goff to be the passing yards leader at 12-1 was one of my pre-flop picks, and he's a second shot on the board right now to Matthew Stafford with 1 fewer game being played to this point. So I'm hopeful that he can get up there. So maybe I could come home on 2 of these leader market things.
Yeah, I mean, if you come home on 2 of those, that definitely increases your margin for error with some of the, more straight bets, the win totals, the things that don't have, as big of a payoff, stuff like that. The thing about Goff, obviously, is, this is a team that does lead a lot. They're very good on defense. How much are they going to be throwing the football? How much are they going to be running the football? And then also, at the end of the year, depending on how things are shaking out the division, road game at Chicago, how many passing yards is he going to get playing outside at Soldier Field in Week 18? if that's needed for them. But he does have some home games coming up. That's always a good thing when you talk about a guy like Goff, because the small hands thing was what everybody talked about with the draft. Yep. And I will say he's played better on the road than I think people anticipated since getting traded to Detroit. So that one definitely still has shots. And again, it was important to keep in mind, as I noted in the article, with the progress of some of these things. Some guys have played 10 games, some guys have played 9 games, stuff like that.
We really need him to take advantage of some bad defenses. They got the Giants, the Cowboys, the Steelers as well in that mix. So see what they can do there.
Well, to tie in something Stormy's got, I'll ask you: are the Green Bay Packers going to miss the playoffs?
I heard what you guys were saying about Jordan Love, and I kind of chalked it up in the past to like week after week he really had no idea who was playing at wide receiver for him because they had so many injury issues at that position. But now, it really hasn't been as much of an issue this season for them, especially with drafting Matthew Golden. But maybe Jordan Love just isn't that top 5, top 10 caliber quarterback that people thought he was. I absolutely think it's a possibility. I don't know how good the Bears are. I don't know if the Bears can be a team that can kind of leapfrog them, maybe put themselves in a playoff position. But, right now you're talking about the possibility of 3 teams out of the NFC West making it. Yep. You're starting to see playoff possibilities dwindle for some of these teams that are kind of mediocre, and the Packers seem to be pretty mediocre.
Something we were talking about yesterday, I'm curious your opinion on, is whoever makes the Super Bowl, JVT and Call Me Crazy Butt was saying that whoever's on the NFC side is just going to crush whoever's on the AFC side based on how we've seen them perform to this point. Do you agree that the NFC just feels that much stronger right now?
The powers at the top. So we're talking Rams,
Seahawks,
Lions, and Eagles.
I certainly think it's a possibility, right? You're talking about potentially Bo Nix or Daniel Jones in the Super Bowl from the AFC side, or Drake May, which Drake May is having a phenomenal season, don't get me wrong. But, again, when you get to the playoffs and, you're not able to beat around some of the bums that you've been able to beat during the regular season, it becomes a much different animal. I guess the only question I would have is, Baltimore's probably going to win the AFC North. Are they a team that's in full stride by the time the playoffs come around? Yes. That's the team that might not get dog-walked in the Super Bowl.
That's what I brought up with Mitch today on Pod of the Futures. That was exactly what my thought was. We all thought, or not we all, a lot of us, I was one of them, thought that the Ravens were the best team in the NFL when we came into the season. They are now healthy, and they're starting to look like that. And you talk about curb stomping. Their last 2 games, that I don't even think, you and I watched it closely. You tell me if I am misconstruing this. I don't think that score was indicative of how well they controlled the Minnesota Vikings in that game.
Right.
This team looks like they are primed and ready to go and rip off a bunch of wins, steal the AFC North. And then, to your point, now all of a sudden, if the Colts get the 1 seed, now Bo Nix has to at some point maybe go to Baltimore or something like that.
Right.
It changes so much if they actually end up pulling this off and getting up there.
The Ravens, with that win and the ease of schedule coming up for them the rest of the way, does have them at minus 260 right now to ultimately win the AFC North. My question follow-up to that would be any concern just about Lamar Jackson in the big games and what he's done in some of those fourth quarter clutch moments in the postseason.
I don't think it's fair. Actually, I thought he played well in the playoff game last year. I think we're looking at the result there and just saying, hey, look, Lamar lost another playoff game.
Can't put that on him, but still, the stats are there.
They are, but, rules and stats are meant to be broken.
Fair.
Also, as great of a coach as Harbaugh is, something always happens to him in the playoffs. Yeah. It's not always just Lamar. Yeah. It's something that he does, too.
Mark Andrews,
We're going to shift gears from the NFL to college football next. And before we do, though, worth noting that this is the final week that we are extending out that Sports Equinox special. If you want more content like this on a daily basis and unlimited access to it all, VSiN.com/subscribe for this final week of the Sports Equinox deal. Just $120 for access to all of it. That's less than $20 a month. You get all of the hosts' daily best bets, betting splits available, AI-driven prop projections, 24/7 live and on-demand video, so much more, including all of Adam's college football content, which we will be discussing coming up next on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
All right, time to dive into a little college college football action. Stormy Buonantony, Jonathan Von Tobel, and Adam Burke joining us at the desk. VSiN.com Managing Editor. And always excited to talk to you about our midweek Maction, the return of the Maction, once again on our televisions tonight. And we got a doubleheader, Kent State at Akron, Ohio at Western Michigan. And we've seen a lot of movement on both of these games, but the biggest swing, Kent State, this line moved from 4.5 out to 7 in favor of the Zips. What do you think?
There is no effing way I would lay a touchdown with Akron.
Say it. We're on satellite radio.
Against an FBS team with a pulse. I know that they pummeled UMass last week. UMass is far, far, far and away the worst team in FBS. Like, it's not even close. I don't know what's going on with this line. I mean, I don't know if maybe somebody's hurt for Kent State that we don't know about. Like, maybe their quarterback, Drew DeShields, is hurt. I don't know. This is Akron's bowl game, right? Because they can't actually make one. They're as bad on the field as they are in the classroom. Their APR scores were so bad that they were banned from postseason play before the season even began. This is my alma mater, by the way.
It explains a lot, you know?
So, look, I mean, I get it that, you know, Kent State is really, really bad on offense. Akron's really bad at a lot of things, too. But Kent State actually has outgained Akron on a per-play basis in Mid-American Conference games here so far this season. And if you're looking at the full season, I mean, Kent State's non-conference schedule, they played Texas Tech, Florida State, and Oklahoma. So their full season numbers are not something you want to look at. You want to whittle it down to what they've done in conference. I don't know why this line's moving. I'm on a bad number. I played Kent State +5. You got to play Kent State +7. Even if this one loses, like, Akron is favored over FBS teams in consecutive weeks for the first time since 2018. So, I mean, if I lose to Akron with Kent State, you know, +7, even +5 that I have, whatever, I'm okay with it. It's a bet I had to make.
What about the other one? Western Michigan, Ohio, you got anything?
Yeah, so flip favorite situation here, albeit not really much of one. I mean, just from -1 on the Ohio side to -1, -1.5 on the Western Michigan side. I like the under in this game. That's the play that I made, under 47. Ohio is very, very stout defensively. Western Michigan is not good on offense, but their defense is what has really carried them throughout the course of the season here. They are top 25 in yards per play allowed, so 23rd in the country, under 4.4 yards per play in MAC games. So Western Michigan's defense is no joke. They are very, very good. Weather could be a little bit of a factor for this game, could be a little bit of wind. Ohio's defense is bad, but they're getting a bad offense. They maybe get a help from the weather conditions. So I played under 47. As far as a side goes, kind of lean the Ohio way, but not super strong with that. But this is a really big game. I mean, Kent State Akron's a big game for the Wagon Wheel in their rivalry series, but both of these teams are 4-1 in Mid-American Conference play. So this is a really big game in terms of the quest to make it to Detroit for the MAC championship game.
These non-P4 games, for anyone who doesn't know, are Adam's bread and butter, and he breaks them down every week on VSiN.com. Got articles and picks up right now. You also every week do your adjusted power ratings, which I know you wrote in your article this week. When you get to this deep in the season, the adjustments are less and matter less to you as you get to this point. Why is that, I guess, for one? And then who are some of your biggest movers at this point?
So, you know, there's a lot of stuff going on now at this time of the year in college football, right? You're going to have injuries that you don't know about. You know, I made the joke on the college football betting podcast with Tim the other day. Like, I spent 25 minutes looking for SIU Edwardsville basketball injury information on Monday morning. It's just really hard to find injury intel for these college kids. A lot of times they're protecting, you know, what's going on with their players. Obviously, there's gamesmanship involved, stuff like that. A lot of these kids are beaten up. A lot of these kids are tired. You're going to have, you know, coaches that go to an underclassman starting quarterback because they want to play him in hopes of keeping them. You know, in the transfer portal era, it's so hard to be able to keep your guys around. If you let them play a little bit and kind of let them know, hey, you know, maybe you're going to start for us next year, maybe they'll turn down a couple extra $100,000 to, you know, uproot their lives and go play somewhere else. So that's a big part of it, right? What we've seen throughout the course of the season here may not have a whole lot of bearing. The second thing is, and this is in correlation with the team I dropped the biggest in my power ratings, I dropped Florida 6 points last week. Complete and utter no-show against Kentucky. Coming off of the Georgia game, felt like there's just nothing left in the tank for them anymore. So defense is still really good. DJ Lagway has played awful this season, but I dropped Florida 6 points because I think there's an element of quit in this football team, and I can't quantify that. I can't quantify how much that's worth. I don't know that for sure. But based on what I saw on the field, losing 38-7 in a rivalry that you've dominated for the last 30-plus years, probably not a good sign going forward. So, my lines may be off a little bit, whether it's because I'm accounting too much for what I think is going on, or just because at this time of the year, it's hard to keep up with the injury information.
Yeah, and I think to your point about what you're just talking about with this Akron game right now, generally, especially when we would do the opening lines like every single Sunday, the later you get into the year when college football hits the board, the less you'll see notable line moves.
Right.
Because in theory, we're getting more information as the weeks go along. In theory, your numbers, power ratings that you make, and the market itself should be at its tightest and most accurate by the time you get to the end of the year.
Yeah, and Adam, to your specific example with Florida, we have seen a big swing in that Ole Miss game this week out to, I think, 16 and a half is the highest number I saw. So, yeah, that is significant. Oregon was another team that you did have drop a good bit, even though they're a team that has a ton to play for here these last few weeks.
Yeah, so, part of this was just a market adjustment, right? So when I update my power ratings, I have 3 steps to the process. The first step is I compare my line to the closing line. The second step is I go through the box score, try to find out what actually happened in the game. Did the quarterback get hurt? Was there a big turnover discrepancy? Special teams, is that why the total yards look so bad? Because one team didn't have a possession because they ran a kickback or ran a punt back, stuff like that. Then the third step is what I talked about already, trying to find injury information as much as I possibly can. And it's easier when a guy, leaves a game hurt, because then you can just kind of assume, okay, something's going on. Other times, like Blake Horvath last week for Navy, doesn't start. Nobody had any idea whatsoever. They weren't going to beat Notre Dame or cover against Notre Dame with the way the Fighting Irish played, but Horvath's probably like a touchdown adjustment to the line. We had no idea he wasn't going to play. So trying to find injury information early in the week can be a little bit challenging, but those are the 3 steps that I have. I had Oregon a 10.5-point favorite in my numbers against Iowa. Clearly that was too high. So I wound up adjusting them back 4.5 points. They didn't play all that well in that game offensively, but the weather did play a factor. So that's why I made it 4.5 instead of maybe going down a little bit more to kind of more mirror the closing number.
How much did you adjust the power rating on San Diego State?
Oh, come on.
I saw the smirk. I saw your smirk out of the corner of my eye.
I've been so nice to him today. It's his birthday. I'm being sweet, and then he pulls that out.
I'd argue that's not being nice to me.
Look, we kind of discussed this too. Going into, I played against San Diego State in the game against Wyoming. I played against them again last week. Yep. San Diego State was a team I actually didn't drop because my number was like 3.5 on the game. They closed 7.
Yeah.
It came to fruition closer to my number anyway. But this was an example of San Diego State had not played a passing offense of any consequence whatsoever, and Hawaii took it to them.
Mm-hmm. And then they did.
They host Boise State this week as a field goal favorite. Even without Maddox Madsen, I'm like, I've lost all confidence in the answer.
Honestly, I would take San Diego State this week.
Yeah,
I would hope so.
Boise can't throw it around on them the way Hawaii did.
I would hope so. Before we let you go, these last couple minutes, as you push these power ratings forward to the Saturday card and some games that you were looking at, any perceived advantages that you did want to fire on early?
I'm disappointed we're not going to talk about Drexel and Colgate in college basketball, but. Yeah, there were a few games that I kind of looked at here.
We had a host that knew what they were doing.
I missed that article. Sorry, I was going to the MAC.
Yeah, there's a handful of games that I'm kind of looking at here. And to JVT's point, right? My numbers should be pretty close to the market. So if they're not, what am I missing, right?
Yes.
Do I just have a stronger opinion on a team, or am I missing something? Have I not accounted for news? Stuff like that.
To Adam's point real quick, you should not have a 7-point edge when we're getting to week 12. You should be somewhat close to the market.
Right. And when I do, it is one of those things where I'm like, okay, what do I have wrong here?
Yeah.
Because it's got to be me, right? The sports books have so much data. The sharper, the influential bettors out there with the models and all that, they're molding and shaping the market. The sports books have a pretty good idea of where these things are supposed to be. If I'm off by a ton, there's something wrong with my number. So, for example, Utah. I have Utah over a 2-touchdown favorite against Baylor this week. Number is under double digits, right? It's 9.5 in that range. What am I missing, right? Am I overvaluing Utah? Am I undervaluing Baylor? What is it that I'm missing in this game to where I'll probably play Utah, but maybe not for as much as my normal bet size would be? I'll trust my numbers to a degree, and then pay to find out if I'm wrong. And if I'm wrong, I'll make a big adjustment.
Okay, so what is the Drexel Colgate bet?
Oh, well, so we're just going to throw it in there?
Yep.
By the way, Drexel is the Dragons, Colgate is the Raiders, for those who don't know. I played the under in this game. So Colgate, both these teams really lost a ton of their offense.
That's all we got time for.
Drexel plays at a very slow pace, under 140.5.
Okay. Next week, I promise I'll tee you up for more college hoops. But
I would
you
hope
had
so.
the full NFL draft thing. Normally, I would have done college football and college basketball, but you did so much work on the NFL futures draft that we had to discuss
I know,
it.
this is the first week I've ever done work before coming on this show.
To be fair, you came in with so much
To be
energy,
fair.
we thought you were going to get through a lot. You know?
We gotta take a quick timeout. More money moves coming up after this. Diving into the 6-game NBA card and JVT's reaction to Nico Harrison getting the axe in Dallas.